Good afternoon. Thank you guys for tuning into the Coaching Corner. This is a new show that I am doing because for anybody that hasn't met me yet, I've always done my podcast. I've done Real Talk with Karen Stacy, and then I've done other shows, which was Coffee Talk, Sex Talk, Lunch Talk. You got it, I'm talking. So I actually have now become an accredited coach, and the university that I attend, I have, many other students that are on this journey with us. And, since I am so good at talking, I have brought my colleagues on so they can get good at talking too, because believe it or not, it's not always easy to step into and embody a new position in your life, right? So I am here to not only help gain perspective for the listeners, but I'm also here to help gain perspective for other coaches, because I believe that there is no competition in life. You only have to be better than what you were 10 minutes ago. And if you can support someone else, then that's what you should do. Because if the world supported one another a little more, I think we would be in a much better place. So I'm actually waiting for my guest today, Andy, to jump on. If anyone is here, please comment so I know you're listening. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you guys again so much for tuning into the new show, The Coaching Corners. Please make sure if you're listening to this show live that you comment, hit that follow button. And if you can't catch it live and you're catching it on the replay, this gets replayed out to every podcast, all of your favorite podcast platforms. It will be there and you can listen to it on the run, on the go. And if you gained any knowledge from this, feel free to share it with someone that might benefit. Andy, are you here?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I can't see anything.
No, this is not a video. This is audio, honey.
How you doing?
I am very well. I must say that you have like a very sexy voice. Am I allowed to say that?
Oh my goodness. You're going to make me blush.
Well, good, but nobody can see you, so it's okay.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
You know, and I have said this to you, that was the first thing I noticed about you is your very distinctive tones.
Well, thank you.
You have a very distinctive tone.
That's a very nice way of putting that. Distinctive tones. I said that your voice was very sexy. You said I have distinctive tones. That's like...
Yeah, it made me want to listen.
Oh, well, I like that. And your voice is making me want to listen too. So we're 2 for 2 here. We're in good shape. So I'm going to be very transparent with everybody listening right now. I do not script any of my shows, and I do this on purpose because I'm all about real talk. And if something is scripted, I'm not saying it's not real, but I want it to come from the heart. And as I had mentioned in the intro, I am also doing this to help my fellow coaching people. All right. Now, Andy, you got to stay still. We're hearing a lot of stuff behind you.
Okay.
This picks up a lot. So, just don't move. No, I'm only kidding. So, Andy, can you do me a favor and can you just introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, sure. Andy Finnegan. I am the ripe old age of 60.
Okay. Oh, good. A fellow, good. Okay. I'm going to be 56 on Saturday. I feel better hearing this. Okay. Go ahead. Go.
Yeah, ripe old age of 60. I've been in corporate sales for 37 years. I think we worked it out.
Okay.
Achieved some real milestones with the companies that I've worked for. Some of the achievements of, I've had to have a personal coach to get me to acknowledge some of the personal things that I've achieved, because I was not that I wasn't brought up well. It was I was never really one of those kids to think that what I did was any good. So I was always,
Recognizing, yeah,
yeah,
well, and that's not, I don't know that that has anything to do with just upbringing, to be quite honest with you, not to interrupt you. I think that, yes, that could be, but I think also, life is hard and people don't always pat you on the back. They're usually kicking you while you're down. And I know that that's a horrible thing to say, but, most of the times, depending on who you have around you, and this is why it's so important to have good people around you, or a coach, for instance, right? That reminds you, like, we do, let's say you did, like, when you were just speaking about yourself, you're like, oh my God, 37 years and I accomplished that. And it was almost like you had to, tell yourself what you already accomplished, right? Isn't that interesting?
yeah, yeah. It's very true, and I find myself now doing that for people.
Amazing.
Trying to lift their ceilings, those glass ceilings that they've got in
Yes.
their own minds, trying to show them how they can break through those ceilings. I've done that multiple times and been really proud of some of the people that I've worked with,
Oh, that's
um,
amazing.
and, and what they've achieved.
Can you give us an example of, like, I mean, of course, I don't need, you're not going to tell me who it is and all of that, but like, if you think of one particular client that you were able to help, what was the problem that they were having and how did you help them overcome it?
Um, I don't know if it was so much of a problem to, it was a bit of a problem to me, but it was going to be more of a problem to the company. I always cite this guy because he's now gone on to run his own business. And when he was working for me, I remember being asked to go, and he'd had an interview. He'd had an initial interview, and then the managing director called me and said, Andy, can you go and see this guy? We're not sure about him, but you go and have a last check on him and then see what you think.
Uh-huh.
So I went to meet this guy, turned up, um, decent enough looking guy. He had a skinhead at the time, which could have been deemed as a first impression to be quite impressive. It's not like nowadays where a crew cut or a number one would be quite fashionable. Then it could have been deemed as, quite aggressive in nature. But I sat down. I'm not a person to take um, people at their first, the first look at people and make judgments. I've never done that. So sat down, had a chat with him, and I was impressed with the way that he was trying to get a job. And something said to me, well, why does this guy want a chance at working for this company? He's never done anything like this. It's obvious that in his life he's been a kind of practical guy. He's never had to buckle down. All of these things are coming through whilst I'm having this conversation. So in the end, I just cut it short and I said, and I've done this a couple of times actually, I said, are you just looking for somebody to give you a chance? And he went, yes, please. And I went, okay, no problem. Let's do it. And he went on to be a real pain in my arse.
Mm.
He was really, really talented. He was so naturally talented. Then we were taught with scripts, and you had to stay with a script and you had to read off a tablet and read word for word, and you were very compliant because we were selling insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to stay with the insurance. But he was always late.
Mm.
And I mean always. I mean, he was bad. I mean, when I was younger, I had a bit of a timekeeping issue, but he was worse than me.
Okay.
And I remember, we just won, the company had just won a massive account, a huge account, and he'd been selected to be put on it because he was performing quite well. And he'd got one of the prime locations, and he turned up late to meet the contact.
Oh.
And I flipped my tree, and I said to him, "You got to meet me after work." And I decided to have it out with him, because this wasn't a one-off. This was over a period of time. And as their leader, their manager, if anybody made a mistake, I would always try and guide them through that.
Right.
And show them the error of their ways, so to speak. And I sat down with him, and I said to him, just to cut a long story short, after he'd had his initial seething of the teeth from me, and the closed eyes and the gritted teeth type of thing, I said to him, I said, "Now let me understand this. What do you understand about timekeeping?" And he said, "Nothing." I said, "What do you mean? What do you mean, nothing?" He said, "I don't understand what all the fuss is about." And I sat back in my chair, and I was amazed he was saying this. And I said, "What do you mean you don't understand what all the fuss is about? Do you not understand that somebody has made an appointment and they could be waiting on you?" He said, "But yeah, I can't help the traffic, and I can't help this, and I can't help that." And I said, "Hold on. What didn't your mum and dad ever teach you to be on time?" And he went, "No." I went, "What? Pardon me?" He went, "No." He said, "My dad played in a band, so he was never on time going on stage. And my mum was a bit of a hippie, so she wasn't bothered either way. So I just grew up around that. So I've never really understood the importance of it." He said, "You're the first person that's ever really spoken to me about it." And at that point, I had to change tact and go a different way, because, as I say to my son, I will always help you when you're attempting anything first time, and never be afraid to attempt anything. Never, ever, ever be afraid to attempt anything. It's better to attempt and fail rather than never attempt at all.
So now,
And
I don't mean to interrupt, but I was asking you about your coaching. So did you end up mentoring or coaching this young man?
well, yeah, well, I asked him, I explained it to him in these terms, and this is how I flipped my timekeeping around. We had an American speaker come to an organization that I worked for previously to this one. And he said, timekeeping is not an insult to the person who you're meeting. It's a lack of respect for the self. And that really hit home with me. And that's when I began to change everything around. And I explained exactly the same thing to this young guy. And I said to him, I said, "This isn't really about what the person's expecting from you. This is more about what you're expecting from yourself. And you can demand more when you're on time with a client, because they'll fit in with you. You're there to provide them with a service. And if you're on time, then you can ask for more." And I said, "Here's the one thing I will do with you. We will work on this together. So I'm not going to leave you to do this on your own. We'll work on it together. We're going to plan together. We're going to have a call in the morning when you're on a new location, and we're going to make sure we go through your plan, what time you're going to arrive, you're going to be in the car, we're going to have a chat. And all of these things we're going to go on." Now, this guy, eventually, he left the company and he went on. He now runs his own haulage company.
Okay.
And the last time I saw a picture of his haulage company online, I think I saw 7 vans. It's either 5 or 7 vans. It was one of those.
Okay.
This is a kid that I met in a hotel scrambling for a job,
So
who
now
was never on time, and now he's got his own business.
Well, so now, is that what the line of coaching that you have? So in other words, you're no longer in the corporate, and now you're doing coaching. And this is what brought that about, because you recognized that people didn't know these basic, I mean, it is kind of a basic fundamental, right? Like, if you
Yeah.
are supposed to come in at a certain time, you come in at a certain time. And I think you use the example of, well, I have no control over the traffic. I have no control over this. And so, like, the answer to that is, well, if then you leave ample time so that if you do hit traffic, you're still going to be on time. I mean, of course, things happen that are out of your control, but it is something so simple as that, right? So was this the start of you branching out and starting to coach now? Is that the
N-
your niche?
n- No, that wasn't the start of it. That was just something using as an example, as something so simple has led to something so big. I think he's been in business for about 10, 15 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm trying to say is this guy could never be on time for anything, and now he's running his own business. Now, I'll bet you, I asked him to do me a favor last year, and it was to move my son from the north of the country back down to the middle of the country. And he said to me, he said, I can't do it because I've just won a major national contract. And I was just blown away. I was so proud of the fact that I'd had a little part to play in his journey.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was speaking to him, he was still calling me gaffer, and that's an English terminology for boss.
Okay.
And this is years and years later. And he said, I don't know if I can help you, gaffer, but I've just won a major national contract, so all the vans are tied up. And I said, no problem, we'll find another way. But the coaching part, what's led me into it is because I've worked with a number of people over the years, and there's a lot of people that have gone on to do quite a few decent things. And I'm quite happy with the fact that I've got a formula in my head that allows me to work with most people, any people, and lift their own thoughts on themselves, self-analyze, but not to the point of self-destruction, but analyze positively and critique themselves really well, and then come out fighting, and they're never giving up, just never giving up.
Mm.
It ain't over till the fat lady sings.
Well, that's very inspirational. So that's the line. So you're no longer in corporate, right? And now
Hmm.
you're trying to help people in corporate environments to flourish. Like, what is your where is your passion of where you're putting your coaching, you're birthing your coaching business?
It'll be small, medium enterprise business owners.
Okay.
There, it'll be team managers. It'll
Okay.
be individuals. It'll be individual salespeople. Or it'll be somebody who just wants to achieve something in life.
Yeah.
Somebody who feels like they're down and out, and they don't feel as if they've ever achieved anything. They just need a bit of guidance
Yeah.
on anything that they want to achieve. We
Yeah.
can set goals. We can look at the gap analysis. What are we not achieving? Why are we not achieving it? How do we achieve it?
Yeah. And
I've just felt my calling. It's been years now where I felt more happier helping people than bringing in my own income. That
hmm
sounds really strange,
no, no, I don't
but
think so.
that's what I get my kicks out of. The more people I can help,
I
the better.
understand that. I understand that. And that's, and the beautiful thing about that is, you're putting it to good use, for lack of a better term, because there are a lot of people in life that are, they only get fulfillment through helping others because they're not fulfilled themselves.
Yeah.
But a coach should be fulfilled in themselves, and then they get further fulfillment by helping others because they see the challenges that they've been through, and then they use their wisdom, like you just said, something so simple with this younger guy about, like, hey, hello, do you have a watch? Like, are you aware? And something so simple, but a lot of people do not have support. A lot of people are doing it on their own. And, there aren't a lot of people that want to help other people. It's like you were helping this younger man to, in business while you were in the same business. And not everyone does that because, some people shine better when other people shine less. And it's really, right. So it's very amazing to be able to allow others to shine and recognize that they're shining brightly, and it only puts the light even brighter on yourself.
Yeah, there's a young lady I've been speaking to recently on LinkedIn, and she asked me a question about very much, pretty much what you just said about, if she's working with colleagues and she finds that these colleagues are um, not being respectful to her.
Mm-hmm.
I said to her, you've just got to, there is such a thing as PJ, called professional jealousy,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to be aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
And what you have to do is maintain your integrity.
Yep.
And if your integrity is maintained, your honesty is there, you're always nice to people, and you do not lie.
Right.
Okay? You're always honest, and everything that you say can be factually backed up,
Right.
either in numbers or something else. And I
Right.
said, if you can answer me all of those things in the affirmative, you have nothing to worry about. Just don't get involved in the professional jealousy. You've
Mm-hmm.
got to kick the door down if you want opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And how you do that is up to you. But
Mm.
you've got to fight to be noticed.
It's
Right?
it's very, first of all, especially, and I'm not going to go into this rabbit hole, but, certainly, especially in business and so forth, women definitely have to have a stronger leg to stand on, because no matter what side of the fence or pond you live on, it is definitely a man's world. I mean, women rule it, but men, it's a man's world. And so women are always constantly fighting for their place. And again, jealousy, like you said, is a crazy thing, and you can't entertain it. And especially if you're not coming from that place. So it is very challenging. I have a dear friend of mine that I've known my entire life. And he's a very, successful CEO. And this is like, one of the many companies he's been in. And one of the companies he was in, really, he was just not aligned because, like, I use the word sharks to describe them. I said, you have been like just in a sea of sharks, and you just have to keep yourself like alive so they don't bite you and freaking kill you. And that's a really horrific place to live. And you have to really have that, like what you were just saying to her, like giving her that support and encouragement, like, hey, if you're doing this, and that, let people do whatever they're going to do. You stay in your lane, you keep going, and don't compromise your own values and morals and beliefs, in between. And those were the things that I had said to my friend as well. And eventually he left there and went to another, company. But it's a brutal place to live.
Yeah, it can be, especially if you are, in inverted commas, standing in somebody's way.
Right.
So if you have the position that they
Right.
are seeking or
Yep.
sought after, or you are a blockage for them to get something through the channels
Yep.
and get passed off, and then it has to go through you, then that people can come after you in different ways. And you learn that the truth never differs from the path.
Mm.
All right. So once you stay on that path, once you understand what you've got to do in life, and then you don't let, and I find this pretty crucial because I've been down this road, you don't let your job or your career control your life.
There you go.
It,
Amen.
it, it's the other way around. You control your job or career. And as long as you can put things in place to remember that that job or that career is the vehicle to your spiritual happiness, then you'll always be on the right path. That's how you know you're on the right path. If you're unhappy at all, then and your spirit isn't feeling it, then there's something that is not aligning. And
Yep.
that's what you just talked about with that gentleman there that left.
Yep. And it's all about alignment. And that's the whole reason why, like, I do find coaching, so, it's just freaking amazing. And the things that you learn in the process is just so amazing, because really alignment is everything. And I said this on other, podcasts that I've done, and I always speak on this. You have to be aligned with whomever it is that you're working with, or your goal, or whatever whatever the case may be, because that alignment is everything. And people, if you're not in the right place, you kind of, you figure it out, because something is gnawing at the back of you and saying, like, I don't know, something's not right here. And then you need to, then you have to make the hard choices, right? Because so many of us think that it's harder to change paths than it is to actually live in that quote unquote destructive path, right? I mean, because the truth, right? I mean, think that's exactly what you just said. You said, stay true to your values, because once you sell your soul to the devil, that weight is worse than what the few things that you need to do to just better yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you were just saying, and you brought something to my mind there. I've worked in teams where, I've felt people going after me, and the one thing that I've understood is that they won't have the staying power that I have. They won't have the thirst for knowledge that I will have. So therefore, how are they going to beat me? How are they in the very competitive world of sales, or in our corporate businesses, or hitting targets, achieving? How is that going to happen if you have that hunger within yourself? Nobody's going to beat you. Nobody's going to beat you.
Yeah.
You've got to dig deep. There's this thing about managers and leaders, and I've had some really strong differences in opinions with. To me, I'm not great with the word manager. Some people get that title after their name and they turn into a demon. They turn into the devil's child.
Power play.
Yeah, because they're now using this to control people. Okay?
Yep.
I've always seen it as you lead people.
I agree.
Get your hands dirty. If somebody's not affecting something or not doing something, go out there, join them, sit with them, join them, keep them. A lot of the times they don't actually want. Here's one for you. Here's something I learned very early in my management career. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. They don't even want you to do stuff for them. They just want to know that you're there for them if they need you to have a vent at, have a cry at, or anything else. They just want to get something off their chest. A lot of the time, it's got nothing to do with what's actually happening at work. It could be something to do with what's happening at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what role are you playing? Are you a sounding board, or are you the controlling board?
Right. Very good point. Very good point. And, like, this is why, and I have to say this, I don't know if you feel this way, but I've reinvented myself a number of times in my life. I am always striving to find, more things to add to myself, if you will. And, coaching, somebody that becomes a coach, I believe has been that person their whole life. They just weren't, trained for it, so to speak. Life trained them, but they didn't have, accreditations or whatever, behind them, unless of course they went to school. And I definitely believe that life, teaches us as well. And so we learn so much. And I'm speaking to you. You said you're, 60 years old and you're endeavoring into a new branch of, profession. And I am, as I said, going to be 56 in a couple of days. And I am doing the same thing. But in essence, we were doing all of these things prior to putting coach in front of our name.
Yeah.
And I give you, like you give me, my heart feels a little fuller because, in some of our, in a lot of our classes and everything, a lot of people, the majority of people are younger. And, sometimes you say, well, Jesus, like, what am I doing? And that imposter syndrome, can jump in and grab you. And, as I'm listening to you and as you're so settled in your own skin, you're so, calm, you're grounded, and your knowledge is just oozing onto all of us at this point. And that is not something that you can learn from a book. I mean, yes, you can, but you clearly embody this person and you have just fine tuned more of your skills by branching out into the coaching aspect of things. So I find you to be an inspiration to myself because, I've not that I question what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing, but sometimes you always feel, time is always something, right? And we're always trying to, you can't get time back. So you always say, oh, well, you know what? If I would have done this when I was 30, or if I would have done this when I was 40, and you know what? The truth of the matter is that if I would have done it when I was 30 or 40, yeah, I'd probably be good at it, but I think I'm going to be a lot better at it now.
It's so true. I mean, I had a one of the reasons I decided to do this was a life-changing event. Um, so there was two of them actually, and in 2021 I was nearly not here.
Oh,
Had it not been for my daughter, they would have probably turned off machines
oh my God, I'm
on
so
me
sorry.
in the hospital. But my daughter came up, and from what I understand, the conversation. Well, she had a conversation with me. There was no brain um, movement on the machines. Two punctured lungs, kidney failure. Um, there was a host of other things that were not happening in my body.
Hmm.
No brain signals. I think I've mentioned that.
Yep.
And the doctor called her up and said, it's time to come and say your last goodbyes.
Mm-hmm.
And she got into where I was in the ECU, I think it is. ETU, I can't remember what it's called. And she was holding my hand, and the doctor was stood behind her, and she was talking to me for some time. I don't know any of this. This is what she's relayed to me.
Right.
And she said, Dad, if you can hear me, squeeze my hand. And she said, I squeeze her hand.
Uh-huh.
Now, this is after nothing from the
Yep.
nurses and the doctors. And then she looked at the doctor and said, Dad, I didn't quite catch that. If that was a yes, can you squeeze my hand twice? And she said, I squeezed her hand twice. And then she looked at the doctor looked at her, they smiled at each other, he walked off, and they left the machines on.
Mm-hmm.
And that was after 6 weeks of being in a coma.
Jesus Christ.
So if it hadn't have been for her, with that never say die attitude, and just asking just asking that question, not giving up on
Yep.
the thing, just asking those questions, I probably wouldn't be here today. And then last year, I went into hospital again, and this was the turning point really. I had a friend of mine visit me, And he said to me, and this was the key sentence I remember. He said, "Stop chasing about up and down the country, making other people money. The one thing that you're never going to get back is time.
Mm-hmm.
Make time for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're good enough to do what you do on your own."
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, wow, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a 14-year-old son, so I want to make sure that as he's coming into adulthood, daddy's around.
Well, it sounds like
So
you're clearly put on this earth for a reason because, listen to what you just said.
yeah, and if I'm honest, when he said that to me, I just thought, I've always worked for somebody, and I go back to the goals and the amount of targets and the monies that I've been set in a fiscal period, and the teams that I've run to get and hit those targets. It is millions. It's not hundreds of thousands, it's millions. And I thought to myself, well, surely to God, if I can do millions for somebody else, I can do a slice of the cake for myself.
Right.
And that's where the thing started. And you're quite right by saying that, if I'd have done this earlier, I don't know if I'd have been ready. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if my mindset would have been there, but
Mm-hmm.
my mindset is definitely spiritually lined up now.
Yeah. Well, that's
I feel
evident.
like I feel like I can coach a new business, um, an old manager, an old salesperson. I love those old boys. The world, they've seen the world,
Uh-huh.
and the world is doing them so badly now. I
Uh-huh.
love those guys. They
Uh-huh.
have so much. They have so much experience. They have no idea how to use it in the modern world.
Yeah.
So the young salesperson who's just coming through wants to make a mark, is hungry, or the management who have a team but don't know how to get that team functioning.
Yep.
Or it
Yep.
just could be like our under 15s football team. You guys call it soccer, I believe. Our under 15s, where the boys are playing football and they're learning new things all the time.
Yeah.
Even stretches to that. I love doing that. I love coaching those boys.
Yeah.
So it it doesn't matter. It's across the length and breadth of everything that we do.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love giving to people. And the greatest part is when you see the magic happen, when they
Yep.
perform something,
Yep.
when they do something,
Yep.
and you know that you gave it to them, or you gave them the tools
Yep.
to execute,
Yep.
and then they executed.
Yep.
That's when the magic happens.
110%. And that's why, like, when people think it's all about money and it's all about this, it's not what it's about. If somebody is in this field, they're doing it because they want to help others. And like what you just said, some of us have had these life-changing events that go on. And, there are two ways to deal with things. You either go through something and ask yourself, like, what am I supposed to learn from this? Because the why we're never going to know until, we reach another plane. But what am I supposed to learn from this? And then it's either you're going to be the victim or the victor. And, it doesn't always happen. And there are a lot of people that become the victim and it's everyone else's fault that they live where they live. And then there are other people that say, you know what, like you just said, look, I've been through this. I did this. I did that. I know what I can do. I know my value. I know who I can help. And I'm in it. I'm in it to win it. And, that energy, your energy is just so amazing. And for everybody listening right now, this is the first time that Andy and I have spoken ever. We communicated via email or whatever. So we didn't speak. And again, I'm a little, different because I wanted this to just be real and organic, and there's no script. There's no questions that they know I'm going to ask. This is just the person who they are. And I mean, Andy, what an amazing person you are. I'm so
Thank you.
grateful to have met you and spoken with you.
Well, let's turn this around a little bit. I remember sitting in a class, as you call it, and I heard this voice, and I remember because normally when I'm sat in those classes, I'm doing something else as well. I'm always doing two things at once.
Okay.
And I heard this voice, and I immediately turned and looked at the screen. I thought, who's that? That's a nice voice.
No one says that about my voice, but thank you.
And I thought, hello. And then the tone, and I was drawn to the voice, and I thought, what does she do? Okay. And I listened a little bit more, and then there was a little bit of synergy as well, because you were talking about the techie aspects of
Yes.
the platform, and I thought, yes, you go, girl, bring it, girl. I love that.
I was probably schooling the teacher or something because, that's what I do. But yeah, I mean, listen, that's it, real talk. And I use my voice as much as I possibly can. And it was funny because one of our, mentors was on today, and he was speaking about the fact that you need to just keep using your voice. And, I mean, that's what I do. And you either, that's the whole thing, is that our voices have to be heard, but there is, of course, a way to deliver it. And, everyone isn't a match for everyone, and that's okay. But, you kind of recognize, depending on where you are coming from in life, so to speak, you recognize where someone lives. And then once you do that, you kind of know, like, what you're dealing with. And, when you just, started speaking earlier and just listening to you, and then, this really crazy, well, it's not even crazy, you went through hell. And, look, I mean, and it's just about support and not giving up, because had your daughter listened and given up, I mean, Jesus, my father will go to the doctor. He'll say to the doctor, listen, you got to give me more information, because my daughter is going to ask me 17 questions when I talk to her. And if I don't know the answers, she's going to call you. And and my father-in-law, when he was in the hospital, the same thing, like one of the cousins was calling me, and they're like, you need to have answers, because Karen is going to ask you 100 questions, because, but that's just, I need to know what's going on. And that, that's just who I am, and I will fight for people. So look, your daughter, no, fathers and daughters, the greatest combination usually. And, she fought for you, because she was like, oh no, what's going on here? And you fought back, because that love, and I believe in that, alignment, energy. Love is eternal. It breaks through every barrier there is in the universe. And clearly you didn't respond to anyone, and they were giving up on you. And then your daughter touched your hand, and you were able to connect. So like, if that doesn't show what connection truly means in this world, I don't think anything does.
Yeah, she's an inspiration. I watch her deal with her daughters now, and I'm in awe. I'm in awe of how she handles. She's a head teacher. She runs her own school, but I'm in awe of how she deals with her daughters, and
Amazing.
how logical she is, and we can learn a lot of our children.
Well,
We
I
can learn
believe
an
that
awful lot.
100%, but I mean, you're also a very logical person. So you raised her to be logically minded, I'm sure. So, don't, again, going back to giving yourself credit, don't shortchange yourself on that, because I'm sure, she learned that from watching you.
Yeah, me and her mother.
Well, okay, great, perfect. And now you get to learn from watching her, and it really is, it is an amazing experience when we can see and learn and just open up our minds to what is possible.
Hmm.
What
It's great.
Yeah. Well, Andy, I cannot thank you enough for jumping on here today. Thank you so much for trusting me, so that we were able to have this conversation, because I know it could have been a little uncomfortable, but you are absolutely amazing. I hope that everyone listening right now benefited from this conversation, gaining a different perspective, because that's really what this show is about, is just like-minded people and gaining perspective, because I'm sure that there's somebody that's going to be listening to this and that's going to say, wow, I've had that issue at my job, and maybe even on my personal, and a lot of the words of wisdom that you embarked upon us today, I think would be very useful, is very useful. I correct myself. So thank you so much for sharing your story. And also we can, is there a way, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, how could they reach you?
Yeah, right. The website, funnily enough, I was doing some of this work today. The website is under construction, but you can take some details off it. It'll have some appointments. You'll be able to book appointments on it. Hopefully by the end of next week. It's AMF Alpha Mike Foxtrot Services 60 at outlook.com. Or that's the email, and the website domain is AMF Services 60.com.
Okay, perfect. So there you go. If anybody needs to or wants to reach out and they're needing a coach, a career coach and mindset and all of that, I think Andy's your guy. So again, Andy, thank you so much. What a pleasure speaking with you. And perhaps we can do this again another time.
Yeah, sure.